Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Nash. I'm a breast radiologist and I'm also the medical director for UK and Ireland for Kheiron Medical Technologies, which is a technology company making AI solutions for breast screening specifically. I'm actually here to deliver a talk with one of our very good partners, Barco, who are a large health tech company based in Belgium. I will say that listening to the last talks and thinking about this talk, this is going to seem very niche because this is about a very specific piece of technology. It's about medical quality diagnostic displays, and it might seem like it clashes quite a lot with what we've just heard. I think my appeal to you is to recognize that actually the threads of this talk are exactly in line with what we've just been hearing about, thinking about distributing care pathways, optimizing care for patients, making sure we're getting the best use out of the resources we've got, whether that's physical estate or specialist resources. So think of this more actually as a case study about a specific piece of technology, and thinking about those last couple of talks particularly, those massive and amazing piece of work we've just been hearing about are underpinned by very specific technology, and this is where this is going to sit. When I talk about distributing the service, I'm going to be focusing particularly on thinking about remote reading, the diagnostic displays I'm talking about, particularly used in radiology, as well as other areas, how to get the best out of those, and actually what it means to provide those services in a remote setting. How we would choose the devices we use, and how we make sure that they're still fit for purpose no matter where they are. Just to talk a bit about Barco. Barco's an extremely impressive company, and if you ever have a reason to go to the headquarters to see their tour, I would very much recommend it. They don't just work in medical displays at all. They also do things like project things onto Buckingham Palace. They do large projections like that. Immersive experiences where you would go into a room and the whole thing is being projected around you is another example. My favourite of their tour actually is the private cinema, where you go in. They're a very large, the largest supplier of ordinary cinema projectors, but also one of the larger providers of IMAX projectors as well. In healthcare, they've got a long history. We can see they've been making displays going back 40 years, specifically for ultrasound. They were the first company to do that, and they've been at the forefront all the way up to the very sophisticated displays we use. And in breast imaging, I'm happy to benefit from the very top end of that. We have the highest specification devices across the whole of the fleet. Thinking about remote reading, people have been remote reading for some time. It's actually very helpful for flexing resources out of hours. So if you can provide a remote reading resource for that, that's helpful. Obviously, the big game changer was with COVID, where it was very hard to get specialist services into hospitals and keep them going. So it was very much desired to distribute the workforce. About 84% of radiologists claim to be doing remote reporting as part of their job, and that same number believe that will be a permanent change for them. We've seen a continual increase since COVID, with more services supporting radiologists to do that. There are other aspects to it, and very much I've been more aware of this since joining industry a few years ago, that you can actually improve the staff experience, which is very important. There's a statement here about millennials, and I don't want to get too much into stereotypes, but the preference of the modern population is to work in the way that the population wants to work, and to enjoy the work we do, and do it where we want, and how we want, and when we want. Do I really want to have a morning that starts with the rat race of getting through all the traffic in the morning, then finding a car park that I'm paying over the odds for, that's nowhere near where I actually want to work? Do I want to do that? And then I come back and my car's been clamped because I didn't show my pass in the windscreen. Many of us have experienced that, and it's a real challenge when you're trying to deliver clinical care. I would also say that for me, I've recognised, again, going to industry, that while it is possible to do a lot of work away from the main hub, actually don't underestimate the importance of being together as a team, because all of those examples we've just heard were about people. They're about people supporting other people, people working together to do that, and there needs to be some element of your work where you're coming together, talking to each other, being human beings, learning from each other, and having those, as people describe, water cooler conversations that actually help to develop care. Something I think in modern medicine, often the delivery of services is a real challenge too, where we don't have a doctor's mess to go around and talk to colleagues and friends that we've known for years. Okay, thinking about the technology and the displays particularly, the Royal College of Radiologists has had guidelines for what constitutes a satisfactory display for some time. Actually looking at these, I'm not going to do that, so I'll do that. If we look at this number here, 350 candelabra per metre squared, if I bought a new display and it was only at that standard, I'd be pretty disappointed. Modern displays are way above that, so I think these guidelines are under review and will be more in line with industry achievements now. It also talks about the implications of colour, and it talks about the importance of having good quality assurance processes underpinning your service. So the key parameters: I need a display that's nice and bright, I can see it from the distance I'm working at, that I can see the details, there's enough contrast, that colour is helping me and not deteriorating the image, that it has a facility to calibrate, and that there is a process in place to do the quality assurance. Thinking about the experience also, where reporters might be working at these stations for 8+ hours a day, thinking about how is the display contributing to that experience and my physical and mental health when I'm using it. This is close to my work in AI medical devices, and this is about the regulation of medical devices and the wearables you were talking, as medical devices will come under these sorts of certifications as well. Depending on what the risk is to the patient or the user, depends on what classification of device it is, from a very minimal thing where there is no particular risk and the company who makes it can just say, yeah, this is okay, to something that is fully autonomous and may carry considerable risks, and companies have to go through, jump through very high hoops to satisfy the regulators up at Class 3. I think probably by proportion, Class 2 devices are by far the most common once you get beyond Class 1. Obviously things like a scalpel and things like that would be Class 1 devices. The EU medical device regulations are still relevant to the UK. If you notice that there are 2017 regulation, at that point actually the UK were one of the larger contributors to the legislation as it was being designed before we came away from Brexit. So it's still relevant in the UK for another 5 or 6 years. Why am I going to talk about this? Because as a reader of imaging, I want this image to be of diagnostic quality. I want it to be consistently of diagnostic quality, and I want to know it is of similar quality to what it was yesterday and will be tomorrow, unless it's telling me something else that it's not. If you have a chain of information, the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So if I'm going to have a very expensive CT machine, or in my case a mammography machine that meets very stringent medical device requirements, there's no point in having a 1975 black and white telly on the end of it. I need to have an up-to-date and really high-performing diagnostic display so I can get the best out of the information for the patient and make direct diagnoses. So here's an example from my work. I work in breast screening. Breast cancer is the commonest cancer worldwide, with obviously significant associated mortality and impacts to individuals, families, society, economics. So many countries have nationwide screening programs, as does the UK. Mammography screening is, as I alluded to at the beginning of the talk, it's associated with the really most stringent quality assurance requirements that we have anywhere in imaging. The displays are of the highest quality, the X-ray systems are of the highest quality. Why is that? because most women who come for screening are normal. Over 99% of women coming for screening will not have cancer. And you need to make sure that you're getting information that is not going to be calling women back unnecessarily, because it's got to be acceptable to the population. These are well women in the community. You do not want to bring them back, making them anxious unnecessarily. If they come back, they're much more likely to have other interventions or even surgery that aren't necessary. But similarly, I want a nice, bright, high-resolution display that is going to show me the abnormalities, because if I miss this opportunity for early detection, patient outcomes will be poorer. So in the display criteria we'll be looking for, I've talked a bit about the guidelines for what these should look like, and we have procurers have to look at those things and follow them, and teams involved in procurement have to be aware of those and guide trusts when they're purchasing those. The specific details, they'll have their own calibration system, which shouldn't need changing through the life of the display. And these diagnostic displays will be guaranteed for 5 years, so that's got to be of a very high quality. You want to make sure that your image is not patchy in the way it's coming across to you. If I was showing you this slide and you could have sort of had a bit of a haze over there and something a bit the wrong size over here, you wouldn't be very satisfied with that. And from a diagnostic point of view, you wouldn't be either. When we're talking about working remotely, historically, radiologists have always sat in dark rooms, usually with shut doors, and they're not necessarily the most welcoming environments, no matter what the individuals ourselves are like. We're moving away from that now. Working in that environment is, it can be more stressful. It's certainly more likely to give you eye fatigue. So, and when we're talking about maybe reporting hubs away from the hospital, or we're talking about reporting at home, we want a display that's able to cope with the different environments we're going to be working in. Just like when you take out your mobile phone in the cinema, you don't want it to be blaring all over the place, not that anyone does that, but in a dark room, you don't want it to blind you, but when you go out in the sunshine, you also want to see the detail. A diagnostic display's got to behave in a similar way. And in order to improve your longevity of being able to report without eye strain, you want the display to contribute to your environmental lighting as well. And if I'm working in a dark room particularly, where's my pen? Where's my mouse? Where's my keyboard? You need a bit of help with a bit of lighting from the display that isn't interrupting your interpretation, but is supporting you in your workflow. Okay, so to talk a bit about the quality assurance management, and when we're talking about these medical devices, whether that's in hospital or whether that's out in the wild, you have to have some sort of quality assurance management system. From a procurement point of view, contracts are much more competitive if you buy large numbers of these devices at once, but then you need the resource behind it to make sure that these devices are all working properly. Are you going to send your medical physicist and your IT team to every location to look at every device every day? You don't want to do that. So you want a cloud-based system that all of these workstations with medical displays attached to communicate with all the time. So you've got a much better overview of all of your imaging display estate, and you can be reactive to problems as they occur without having to do the legwork of going around every radiologist's small country home. What are the benefits? Well, if you're continually monitoring, then you know wherever the display is, however many you've got, that it's working properly always. You can look at it, you can get reports about it, and you can make sure that over time, as the device ages, it's still meeting your policies, working properly, and doesn't need anything else doing that you weren't aware of. You can also pool that data. We heard about pooling data about the patients from other places who had access to the technology. You can pool the data and do analytics and reporting to the way the machines are used. What am I getting the best use out of my estate? Is it working properly? With a cloud-based architecture, it's obviously readily scalable. So you can, if you suddenly just realize that actually you do need another reporting hub, you can do that very easily. You can have a live dashboard. We've sort of a couple of dashboards, something that's intuitive, that gives you the information you want. an automated system, so if a calibration failure or some other failure is detected by the cloud system, it'll let you know. It'll give you an active notification. And even having the workstations plugged in, you may be able to support remote interventions without service engineers having to come on site or go to any remote location to sort them out. You'll get easy reporting and external audits. And you'll get an idea and an understanding of all of the displays across your estate that are plugged in. And so that's, from an industry point of view, the sorts of things that Balco in this example, but industry generally underpinning the medical devices are doing to make sure that these new ways of working are possible. Thank you.